He's never fought us. Not us united.
My favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here. Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared. I'm here with Nick from the Phoenix Press. What's up, brother?
What's up?
And today we actually have a pretty great show in mind for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the process. So for those of you that somehow lived under a rock and haven't watched this channel before, Nick and I are both writing comics. Nick's, by the way, is launching this Friday on my channel. The stream is where we do the launch is going to be on my channel. We're going to have a lot of fun launching Screech to New Heights. And the book that I'm writing, Thunder Goddess Perception, is launching as soon as the book is done.
You'll get it when it's done.
You'll get it when it's done. Yeah, so I figured, you know what, let's do an episode talking about the process of writing comic books, because that's a topic that I'm sure interests a lot of comic book readers. Like, how do we write comics? Now,
very carefully
and with words. We write them with words.
We use our words, not our fists, because you can't. I mean, I know they say pounding out a script, but like, you don't do it literally.
No, but here's the thing: we use our words to make our characters use their fists.
That is true.
There you go. So the way I want to start this off is, Nick, so do you do full script, or do you do like the Marvel style where it's really loose and you give the artist like a ton of freedom on stuff?
Well, how about I give you a visual aid?
Okay, because Nick and I both have some of our scripts pulled up. So Nick, would you like to
Ready
go
when
first?
You are. Ready when you are.
Want to go first?
Sure.
All right. So first, tell us a little bit about this book, even though I covered it on the channel.
So this is Turin Samurai issue 2, and this is the latest issue that I released earlier this year. I wanted something that people might be familiar with instead of just pulling out like some random script or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, I wanted people to look at it and be like, oh, you know, who've read issue 2, be like, oh, I recognize that or whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is kind of my own format. I'm largely self-taught when it comes to you know, comic book writing, so of course I've kind of developed my own style. But the way I laid out, I actually use that. So what you're seeing on screen eventually became what Jared is holding up.
Yeah, it's really dope.
Yeah, it's kind of, honestly, when you kind of point it out, it's kind of surreal, thinking like that became that. You know what I'm saying? I'm
sure it is.
It's, you know, like, but anyway. So I'm very specific with how I kind of format this script, because I designed this format for readability in mind. Like, I'm very particular with like what's bolded, what's underlined, what's tabbed, because I designed it to be able to read it. It's like I said, it's designed so that you can read it better. It's easier to digest.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I format it is page number, and those are bold with 14 point. The font choice, I just use whatever is default, but like the font size for regular is 12 point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I break it down by panels. So for panel 1, these themselves are underlined and bolded, and then, you know, 12 point. I do a very brief description of the panel. Let me fast forward. I actually had pulled up. Nope. That's a spoiler. I mean, whatever. Okay. So page 15. Let's kind of fast forward to page 15, so that I can literally give you a side-by-side breakdown.
That's good.
Okay. So this is page, and basically I just figured I'd do like a full breakdown of one page. I figured, you know, that's fair enough. You know, I'm not going to do the whole book because that would be stupid, but just one page to give you an idea of how like things flow.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So panel 1, Kiro is now sitting at a table with Tyler and Judy. Above them is a big window with that is slightly open. The storm outside looks to be furious. So when I write a script, I like to be like somewhat direct with what I do, but I like to keep things open for the artist for interpretation. I feel like that's very important. Because like I could describe exactly what happens, but that wouldn't make it very fun for the artist. You got to realize you're collaborating with someone, and they need to feel like they're contributing as well. So basically, and by the way, the person who did this is Brian Q. Shout out to him. And then this is a dialogue flow. Normally, I wouldn't put this much dialogue. Really, you should have no more than 4 dialogue bubbles. Sometimes
Michael Bendis.
Yeah, sometimes you can fudge it. Like if you have like less panels, you can get away with more dialogue. It's really a kind of a space issue. Also, you realize these are very short bursts of dialogue, so I can get away with a little bit more. It's really just a trade-off. Like, as a writer, obviously you want to put more dialogue in there, to do your story. But one thing you got to do is more of a less is more approach because you only have so much space on the page. So you got to keep that into consideration. So yeah, and then you got this going on to panel 2. Right. Tyler walks up to Kira and puts her hand on his shoulder. So this is kind of where the artist will I got too many things open. The artist will kind of interpret it a little bit and not necessarily, sometimes they'll take what you say, but like the artist will sometimes make determinations. So in that panel, I actually committed a faux pas where I described 2 actions in the same panel. You don't do that. Now, rightfully, the artist interpreted it as just put the hand on the shoulder. So the thing came out in the end, but that is something you should not be doing. All right. Okay. Yeah. So see, she walks up and puts her hand on the shoulder. Basically, he only did this part, which was the right thing to do, mind you. I'm not criticizing him. If anything, I'm praising him. That was the right thing to do. You do not have to add because these are static images.
It's very hard to describe motion and show that really well.
Yeah. So this one is a little bit trickier. Judy gets up quickly. She holds her head in shock. I'm not really reading out the dialogue because you can kind of read it for yourself. And then this is another time where Brian kind of made a call where he didn't do the head in shock. But this is kind of one of those things when you're working with an artist. Sometimes they'll reinterpret what you wrote and what they feel is better, and you've got to be able to at least give it a chance. And oftentimes, what I found is artists have good suggestions. Oh my God, the people who do visual medium for a living have good ideas. Oh my God, the shocker. That? Yeah. And then, the last panel, and then let's see here. So yeah, so Tyler, and then yeah, so in this one, Tyler's not even in the shot, which I could have pushed him, had him put Tyler in the shot, but it's kind of like the important thing is pick your battles. I mean, I'm kind of going off topic a little bit. We're talking about artist-writer relations, but it's a little bit tangential, but it's still good.
Part of it. It's part of it.
Yeah. So that's a breakdown for Turin Samurai. Then I have Screecher here. This is a book that will be launching Friday. So I figured give you guys a bit of a treat with Screecher. So this is the Screecher script for issue 1. And then page 11. Let's kind of go down to page 11. I'll give you that one. A little kind of quick breakdown of that one. Okay. So kind of the setup, page 11 is kind of like a training montage. It's supposed to be like the showcase of her powers. Like it's like it's kind of like a instead of like I was trying to I wanted to tell the audience what her powers are, kind of give a breakdown, but I wanted to do it in a dynamic way. When they're training, kind of thing. So, panel 1, Avery tries on the cloak portion. Hood is up, masking her face. Okay, so yeah, this is the one where, like, when we're working on the script, it didn't really. We decided to kind of have her putting the hood up instead of it. So it's not like it's kind of like, you know, things can change in between when you write the script and when you do it. It's kind of like what they say in on a movie set, like a movie's written 3 times, once on the page, once on set, once in the editing room. This is kind of that case, you know. And then, but cut back to the suit, you know. Yeah, this is more, you know. So yeah, so you got this, you know, pretty straightforward. You know, he pretty much took it as is. Yeah, and then again, this one you have, you know, more interpretations because, like, he didn't really put the dots kind of thing in. Like, honestly, I wrote this script before I'd really kind of dug into designing the suit, so the dots thing was like, that's kind of thing. Details can be dropped in between in lots of different stages. See, and this is kind of a perfect example of being direct with what you say, but being vague. It's like that's like that could literally mean, like, it's pretty straightforward, you know, shooting off from her left hand, but like that leaves a lot open for the artist
because, you know, he could be doing it like this, or however. But so
he interpreted it into this.
Yeah, and that's great. So you're putting a lot of trust in the artist because you trust that he'll be able to do this in a cool way.
Yeah, like a lot of this is, you know, I develop a trust with the artist and whatnot, but, you know, yeah. And then this one, if you're a Marvel fan, you'll definitely recognize this shot.
Yeah. Even if you don't even have to read the comics. If you've seen the MCU, you will recognize what that image is homaging.
I mean, I'm paying tribute. I mean, people do this stuff all.
I'm doing that too, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's for those who are unaware, this is a tribute to Black Panther, and especially that poster where, like, he has his claws out and he's like looking down at them. It's a tribute to that. It's, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then this one is also, like, very vague. What actually happened with this one was when the artist did it, it didn't originally come out the way I wanted to. Originally, he had him pop out like Wolverine claws kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I had him do a quick kind of sketch. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But yeah, say something while I do that, please. Okay.
Well, so to go off of Nick, one of the things that I did, by the way, if you guys want to know who's drawing my book, it's Dawson from the Four Nerds. He's been on the channel a lot, and I mentioned I wanted to write a comic, and I like his art style because he puts a lot of shading and a lot of, like, shadows in his work, and that's exactly what I'm going for, because my book is essentially kind of dark-ish in that it's, think of it like Zack Snyder's Justice League, except in a comic book form, in that it's badass, it's sort of darkish but hopeful. That's kind of the tone I'm going for. Now,
okay.
Go.
So yeah, that is the design that that the artist made. This was like the kind of the characters, like, basically he kind of did this real quick in order so that we can agree upon how the talons work. You know, the just kind of like
good that you explain that now. Yeah, that's actually really good that you established the mechanics of our equipment.
Yeah, like for me, when I'm creating Screecher, it's plausible enough is what I'm going for. I'm not going for 100% scientific accuracy. It just has to be like you look at it and be like, okay, I can see how that would work, you know, kind of thing. By the way, this is the first time I've showed that, so you're getting another exclusive, brother.
Yay! I get all the exclusives.
Well, yeah, you're my best friend. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and kind of turn it over to you.
All right, so what I'm doing, so one of the things that I really wanted to do, because I've said it multiple times, my book, Thunder Goddess Perception, is basically a tribute book to DC. So one of the things I wanted to do is that every cover So the way it's going to be structured is that it's going to be a book one is 60 pages divided into chapters, kind of like when you read like a trade paperback and it's like it collects the issues. Essentially going to be that, and then each chapter is going to have its own cover. Now, every cover in
that just sounds like making 3 comics with extra steps.
Yeah, every cover in this book, in this universe, is going to be an homage to a DC cover, and I'll give you. I pulled up the example. This is going to be the cover for issue 1 and volume 1. It's basically homaging this image of Wonder Woman.
I like it.
We want to do is that the character Hannah, she's a princess, so that's why we have her in like the traditional princess garb. She has a little tiara, she has some armor to show that she's a warrior. And by this is going to change because she's going to equip because essentially she's an alien princess that comes to Earth. When she fully accepts her role as like an Earth protector, she is going to like change her uniform, because let me put it this way, perception is very important in this story. I'm not going to like go into spoiler what I mean, but there's a very specific reason why this is subtitled Perception. But so a lot of what I'm homaging with her is Wonder Woman, pretty much, obviously, as it takes with the covers, and I combined her origin kind of with Superman, where the basic story is that she exists on a planet where it's stratified based on the powers that you have, and anyone that has powers are called powered ones. It's like her power is that she shoots lightning, kind of like Palpatine, but when she shoots lightning at another powered one, she supercharges their powers.
So you're saying that she gives them unlimited power?
You could say they have the power.
Sorry, as soon as you said Palpatine and lightning, I had to invoke it.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna end up getting that clip anyway. But so this dude right here called the Warlord, he's like my dark side, and he's going after her because, let me put it this way, he has his origin with her is kind of linked, and you may be wondering what I mean by that. That'll be revealed in later issues. But he knows that he's a powered one, and he's basically as unstoppable as Darkseid, but he knows that if he gets his hands on her, he'll be invincible. So that's why she evacuates the planet and ends up on Earth, where she meets my version of the Justice League, known as the Pantheon, and led by my version of Superman, named Titan. So lots of homages to like mythology, and definitely like Jeff Johns' Justice League run, Grant Morrison's JLA run, lots of like the most epic DC storylines are going to have some type of like representation into this, because once again, this book is a tribute to classic DC.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
When the inevitable Justice League crossover happens with your book, how would Wonder Woman react to the princess?
That's a good question, actually. I would see her...
Because DC's actually pretty open to crossover, so if this gets big enough, you actually might be able to... That actually might happen.
I would see them doing a Wonder Woman Thunder Goddess book, like an actual... kind of like Batman Spawn in that way, where Wonder Woman kind of trains her more to be a fighter, and it sort of shows her more about what it's like being a superhero, because she has some conception of it, obviously, because at this point she's very later in her career. But she eventually, but I could see Wonder Woman kind of being more of a mentor too, because Wonder Woman understands what it's like to be a princess too, and have all these expectations upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and obviously, I would say honestly, the JLA would probably lose to the Pantheon, because all they need is her to like amp up their power, and that's it.
Oh, that shot's fired!
Shots fired. Now, I already have a design inspiration for her new outfit, because when she gears up, and by this is also a cover that I had signed by David Finch, just throwing that out there. And this is the armor, the new armor that she's going to have. Basically, my inspiration for her new armor. It's this version of Wonder Woman's armor.
Oh, you're giving her pants.
Yeah, she's going to be fully covered, essentially, and she's going to have arm blades and everything. It's going to be really dope.
Okay, I dig it.
Yeah, and then a lot of the times when I have my artist visualize her powers, we're going to try and do it so, like, lightning is wrapping around her hand, kind of. So it's gonna be really, really, really cool. And but here's another cover that inspired the current comic cover, by the way. Basically that.
All right, the classic. I always wondered, like, is it actually painful the woman to kind of contort themselves in that position?
Maybe, kind of, yeah, exactly. But
it's like I want to show both the boobs and the butt at the same time.
Yeah, although it's kind of side boob at that point, but
yeah, but you know, it's like you know, it's like you're kind of curving your back. It's like, oh.
Well, then again, these are superheroes. Now, you may be wondering, is there a possibility for a Screecher Thunder Gods crossover? And we're here to tell you, yes.
I'm consulting my invisible magic 8-ball. All signs point to frick yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for actually controlling yourself as opposed to last night.
I mean, to be fair, that first time it was just too good a comedic timing.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It was good comedy, and the fans loved it, so I'm fine with that. Now,
yeah, the other times I was just being an a-hole. So
in other words, the way you normally are. But so the way this
I'm an a-hole.
Oh yeah. So the way that this book is actually this universe is gonna be structured is that after every like issue is released, after every like graphic novel is released, I'm gonna have like in between a little bonus item. Like after this one is released, the next book is going to be like an anthology book giving origins around essentially a world building book. And what's cool about it is it's going to be an anthology book written by all my comic book writing friends, mainly Nick. I'm going to have them all. I'm going to essentially have, here are the characters that are going to be featured. Pick your character. And you can essentially write the origin for that character, subject to my approval, of course. But I'm going to give you wide like freedom.
So I can't have the princess raiding a drug den and slaughtering all the drug dealers.
Oh, you can have that. I'm totally fine with that.
Can't she be wielding 2 Uzis that shoot pink bullets?
Here's the thing: you can't do the princess because this book is her origin. There's gonna be a character that I plan on having a Punisher-like character who just kills people. So you could do that.
Question: who is your Batman?
I haven't. The only characters that I've really thought of are 3. There's Hannah, the codename the Thunder Goddess. Aiden, codename Titan. He's basically Superman. And then Duchess, she's basically Mara, only she's normal.
After we film this, I'm gonna give you a freebie, like an idea that I've kind of had in my head, but I haven't really fully developed. I'm just gonna give it to you.
Yeah, I plan on having also one character that's a technopath, meaning he controls technology. All right. A lot of these characters are actually based on a novel that I co-wrote that was basically a military novel. The reason why I went superheroes for the comic is because I figured it'd be easier on the artist so he didn't have to worry about getting the uniforms right and all that. I was like, you know what? We both know superheroes really well. Let's just do that. And then I mean, the story.
You could always do space military, so that way, or what you could do is you could create a fictional military organization, like a task force or whatever, to where you make up the uniforms. That way, you're not bound to any tradition.
True, but I'm definitely going to write these. So essentially, the relationships among the team is going to be like the traditional tight-knit unit. No, it's going to be like a family book, kind of. By family book, I mean it's going to be a book about a family, essentially. Now,
are you saying they're going to be your first family?
Kind of, yeah, exactly. That's good. I love that. I feel like Stan Lee.
Yeah, I think he did a really fantastic job on it too.
Yeah, I know, me too. He did 4 times. But that's basically the concept of the book, and the way I kind of wrote this. I'll share a little bit of my script. Actually, you know what? I may not share my script because since this is an in-process thing, I don't want to like spoil it. But I will say I do similar to what Nick does, and what I do for organizational purposes is each Word document page is a page in the comic. That way, it's just easier for my artist to go back and go, okay, page 1, page 2, page 3. There you go. And also,
yeah. It's just for me. It's just things can get like so. It's just to me, it just seems like I'd have to pad out for whatever. But I'd rather just, I don't know.
That's fine.
To each their own. You know, your style is just as valid as mine. You know.
Luckily, Dawson and I actually, what's easy about this is that Dawson and I've seen all the same movies and all the same comics, so it's easy for me to basically give him a reference, because I'm basically like, remember Man of Steel? Do something like that.
So, I'm sorry, but I have to invoke this. Does Dawson have a creek?
I've said that many times. Yes, exactly. Good.
So I'm so terrible with like my movie references. I once had a friend named Dylan. Literally every time I saw him, I was like, Dylan, you son of a
Nice. Yeah.
He eventually he was all for it the first few times, but after a while he got annoyed and I had to stop doing it. Sure, I overplayed my hand, so.
Sure did. Now, a cool thing. Now, the way this is gonna work, by the way, is that when I launch my campaign, the way it's gonna work is that one of the stretch goals is that it will go. So essentially, the book is gonna be 60 pages. So roughly around like probably as long as I saw them, or like a little shorter. And the way it's gonna work is that if we reach a certain while in funding, it will be upgraded to a hardcover for free. So you'll be getting a hardcover book. It'll be signed and everything. And essentially, let's see, what do I want to say? Oh yeah, the way that, and in terms of like other items you get, there'll be trading cards, there'll be stickers, there'll be all sorts of like of collectible items for you to get. Maybe we'll even have action figures. Yes, Nick.
If I donate $100,000, can all the covers be made of gold?
That's actually a good idea.
or at least do like a gold-plated gold foil. Well, actually, yeah, a gold foil one for like a couple thousand actually isn't the bad. Like that's actually a decent idea.
That's actually a decent idea. Maybe like way down the line with books. Now, what I will say,
like if you get to like a $5,000 stretch gold foil, like gold spot foil for stuff, actually isn't too bad of an idea.
Now, I will say this idea I literally just had on this show right now is that if any of you fan artists want to draw some fan art about any of the characters, I may or may not put that in the back of the book with a little shout out.
Woo!
I'll give you guys, essentially, we'll do a lot like an art contest, and we'll pick like the top 5 best pieces. Now, let me ask you this, Nick. What writers do you look to for inspiration when you're writing your books?
I got a couple of them. Probably one of my biggest writing idols is Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone, which I've mentioned that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
As far as comic writers that I look up to, Chuck Dixon comes to mind.
I was about to say, and if you want to hear us talk about Chuck Dixon, there is an episode on this channel. I'll even put it in the description and up there on the screen.
I mean, yeah, we talked about it. You better link it down in the comments below. Mm-hmm. Some other ones are Alan Moore, Devin Grayson, who picked up on Nightwing after Chuck Dixon left, and I thought she did a really good job. Trying to think here. And then there's also literary writers like Orson Scott Card, Robert Jordan. I'm blanking on his name, but he wrote Old Man in the Sea. Hemingway. Hemingway is kind of a big inspiration for me because his style of like less is more. Like he had a very compact style of writing where like get the most usage out of a word as you can. I really take to heart, and especially in comics, that's really important. Because in comics, you can't afford to be wordy. You need to tell what you're trying to do, especially in dialogue, in as short of a form as you can, and get the most out of that phrase.
Yeah, you really have to like. The thing about being a comic book, about writing a comic script, and by the way, there is no really set style for
there is no set style. There is just your style.
Yeah, and it just depends on who your artist is, because you want to be because ultimately, yeah, you could write anything. You could write the best comic script ever, but if your artist doesn't understand what you're trying to put down, it's going to completely destroy the book. So what Nick and I are trying to say is that it's a balancing act in that you're trying to make your writing as clear as possible so it can translate well into a good into a very effective book. And
okay, let me show you what not to do. Like, I actually pulled up a script to Alan Moore's The Killing Joke.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
This is literally Alan Moore's Killing Joke script.
You can get it?
Yeah, you can do it.
But it is so long.
Oh, not only that, but like all caps and just like...
Yeah, this is very literally hard to read.
Yeah, only Alan Moore could get away with this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's... I don't know how the artist did this. Like,
I have no idea how Brian Boland made that book look remotely good, but based upon that script.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you just read the script, kind of just like, all right, here's like the bare bones of what Alan Moore is trying to say, and then just put it in the bin and just went from there.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, that's what Alan Moore wanted to say.
And so I think it's actually really important to talk about when we're writing comics is to speak upon the Marvel style, like the classic Stan Lee style from the 60s. I think. So, can I say it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So Stan Lee wrote most of the Marvel books back in the 60s. So he eventually developed the style to where the artists were pretty much writing the books. So Stan Lee would send a bare bone, like 1 or 2 paragraph outline of the plot. The artist would go and like draw the book, and then Stan Lee would go in after that, after the art's already done, and then fill in the word bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's how a lot of Marvel stuff was created. And hey, that is a perfectly valid stuff, but like you got to have a lot of trust between artist and the writer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like I really feel like Stan Lee is more known as a persona than he is for what he actually did in comics. Like, Stan Lee was actually a really good writer, and Stan Lee was actually very innovative with what he did in terms of creating.
I mean, look at all the characters he created.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays it's just a lot of like, oh, he's the creator of Spider-Man, X-Men, all these characters, and I feel like that's kind of where the praise ends. And don't get me wrong, those are important. But like that's just like saying, oh, Bob Kane co-created Batman. Yeah, I made sure to, put that in there. But like it takes away like the individual achievements, like the storylines that or the characterizations, or like Stan Lee's Silver Age Marvel comics literally changed comics forever.
Yeah.
And we're still living in the shadow of Stan Lee.
Yeah, of course, because he's awesome. Now,
he is the man.
Going on to the Marvel method, I asked Dawson if he wanted to do full script or Marvel method, and he said full script. I think that's because while the Marvel method works in some contexts, it puts a little too much pressure on the artist, I think.
Yeah, you got to have an artist who's really good at like storytelling on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can't really expect that of all artists. I'm not saying that an artist who can't do storytelling is bad, but it's really a different type of skill set. Because, if an artist can do it, and you meet an artist, and you guys click like that, then yeah, do the Marvel method. Makes things a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
But just because an artist can't do it doesn't mean they're a bad artist. I'm trying to emphasize that.
Yes, of course. It's just it all comes down to really personal preference. Now, what I did do in my book is I told Dawson, hey, so I gave him like a panel descriptions, each panel, and essentially how many panels are in each page and stuff. I said you can modify that however you wish if you think the story would be better this way. In other words, I say panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. If you want to combine panels 1 and 2 into one panel, and you think that would be a better thing for the story, go right ahead, because I trust you. I know you know what I'm going for.
So when it comes to like the panel themselves, I'm fine with them kind of taking initiative and changing stuff. When it comes to like adding or subtracting panels, they need to like clear it with me first, because I'm very particular about like number of panels, panel flow, and because let's say I have like a dialogue heavy heavy page, and them adding 2 panels shrinks into each individual panel, and thus I need to rewrite all the dialogue for it. It just creates more work for me. Versus, but it may be a situation where the artist feels like, hey, we can break up this dialogue into 3 or 4 panels to flow better, and yeah, I agree. Or like I've had suggestions where the artist ended up changing things a lot, and it was for the better. It's just like small stuff. I try to operate on a pick your battles kind of mentality. Of like smaller stuff, even if it's like slightly irks you, does it make the page better? Sure. Or is it worth making a big deal out of? It just, my big thing is like adding panels, subtracting panels without telling me, because like that's like he still
has to run things by me, but my point is that I give him a little bit of freedom and say, okay, so as long as it's saying the same thing and like you didn't like take out key story plot points, fine. If you because ultimately he also has more experience in comic book creating than I do.
Yeah, experience is also kind of a big touchstone. Like I'm always kind of refining my process. Like my next go around, I'll be working with an art editor, and we're gonna put more work into the like thumbnail storyboard phase, to where we make sure that we have everything we need that we're looking for down, kind of locked in before we go into pencils and even inks, because. So like this is kind of more, this is not necessarily script writing, but more dealing with an artist. Is the further along you get in the process, the harder things get to change. Like if you're in like the thumbnails process and you want him to like fully redo a page, they're a lot more willing to redo it in the thumbnails than inks.
Oh yeah,
like they'll redo it 3 or 4 times in thumbnails. Like it's just quick whatever like that. So it's just my best advice when you're working with an artist as a writer is if you want something changed, the earlier the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine that. Now, okay, so let's see.
I will say, though, the flip side of that is oftentimes, and this might just be more in my particular case, but like sometimes it's hard to see exactly what they're going for in the thumbnails or whatnot, where it's really vague. So that can be kind of difficult, but you gotta just kind of do your best. That's the best I can say.
Yeah, just do your best. Now let me ask you this: in terms of like, okay, so let's let me see now what I want to say. But so actually first I want to do this. What I think Nick and I can do is show off like who the other work of our artists to give you essentially an idea of who's drawing these books. So let me just plug up Dawson's Instagram. I've had this up before, but I figured, okay, just
well, in that case,
I'll do mine first.
I need to
find his. So here's essentially Dawson's work. So he does a lot of like fusions. In other words, putting 2 characters together, oftentimes DC and Marvel, and like really pop cultural and other characters. Like you have TMNT mixed with like Batman, Superman mixed with Darth Vader, and he'll like throw it out. But this is basically the art style of the book, which I think works really well for the style that I'm going for. Yeah, like see right here. Here's his version of like one of the characters from Arcane.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, it's so. Yes, I love that show. It's so good. But yeah, so this is essentially the art style that we're going for in the book.
All right, I got my artist pulled up on Instagram. I'll send you the link so that you can. So this is the artist for both Turin Samurai and Screecher. So like this is his last name. I just call him like Brian Q because for obvious reasons. And then so this also as you can see, this is actually work he did on Screecher, by the way. So also that's a preview for the new art style for issue 3. Yeah, this is his stuff. I picked Brian because he had I originally hired him for Torrent Samurai, and he had a lot of black and white art. As you can see, he is really good with black and white art.
Yeah.
Especially with the grayscale stuff, issue 3 is going to look so good, I tell you. And then you can definitely tell this is the same guy who did Screecher. That looks like Avery a little bit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just kind of shouting him out, but this is my artist. I love this one. It's just so funny. But yeah, look at him. He has a really good. Obviously, he's more of a manga kind of style artist, but ooh, that looks kind of cool. Sorry, but he's just I don't know. I just think he's really good.
Sweet.
Because I like how he's really good at spotting blacks, and he does really strong shadows and whatnot, which was perfect for Torrent Samurai, honestly. But yeah, this is Brian, and he's perfect for Torrent Samurai, and he did a really good job on Screecher, honestly. I'm excited. I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to this.
Yeah, that was dope.
So in issue 3 of Turin Samurai, we're going to be switching it up to more of a grayscale, gray tones, and this is literally Turin Samurai art. This is some fan art he did, but this is what you can expect from issue 3.
Looks great. I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, talking about Arcane. This is I think that's a character from Arcane. I think
it looks like Vi a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. What do you think is the number? If you could give someone one tip on writing a comic, what do you think is the number one thing if you're going to write a comic book that you have to understand?
My biggest advice, is write with passion, write well. Basically, what that means is, if you're not excited about what you're writing, don't write it. Because you need, your story, you have to be the first fan. You have to be the original fan of your story, because if you're not passionate about something, it will show up in your art.
Yeah. And
in order to do your best work, you have to be really passionate about your book. If the idea of creating your story just doesn't give you the uncontrollable urge to run to your computer, run to your notebook, and just start scribbling, then you might want to rethink things.
Yeah. Mine is read comics, because even if you're not a comic fan, but you want to write a comic book, because you have to know, because that's a good way to get ideas on, okay, so I like how this writer did this. And oftentimes a lot of collected editions will have scripts from a few of the issues that's contained in the book. So you can use that as a model.
To add to what you said, I would say not just read comics, but read, watch, and listen to everything. Because, obviously reading comics is important, but I feel like it's also important to take storytelling ideas from other mediums.
Yeah.
Because that's how you can make stuff interesting. I remember reading this article, so this is kind of music related, to where I think it was Paul Gilbert, a musician, said most shredders take influence from other shredders, which is a style of guitar, and it makes the style stale and inbred. So what he does is he takes inspiration from keyboardists.
Yeah.
For example, Dave Grohl, he approaches guitar like he's a drummer. He views each individual string like a hi hat, low hat, and so that's why Dave Grohl kind of has a different style. It's when you have different perspectives on things, it changes how you look at things. Yeah, so exactly. Watch lots of movies. For me, I watch a lot of YouTube videos where they break down story elements, like Lessons from a Screenplay. Really great resource for breaking down stories, story beats, learning about tropes, learning about storytelling techniques, the hero's journey and whatnot. I feel like those are universal. Those are just universal writing skills that are very important.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, yes, read comics because you have to know like roughly what your writing is going to translate into, but also take note from other storytelling elements because ultimately, there are different mediums, but you're telling a story, so you want to know essentially, okay, beginning, middle, and end. You have character interactions, character arcs, and such. You can learn that from any medium, and also get some books that on comic writing because I have a couple of them written by guys like Bendis, where they'll give you like basic ideas on how you construct your script, and they give you examples from their books on why they did it this way, what worked, what didn't work, how they got feedback. So it's a good way to like essentially understand the structure of the script and what's Nick showing now. Yes,
so I wanted to give a shout out to Lessons from a Screenplay.
Yeah.
Like this is really good about like breaking down story elements and whatnot. Like I actually encourage you to check this out, Jared.
I will check that out.
I mean, there's more YouTube channels like this, but like they break down like like stuff and whatnot. And then also the other thing is I actually really recommend this book. This is a DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics, and it was written by Denny O'Neil.
Yeah.
He was so like this guy knows his crap, okay? And I've read this book. It's really good. So as far as reading recommendations, I highly recommend this book.
I also have I use this because he also brings in a lot of other writers too, and I also use the Comic Experience, a guide to writing comics. So in other words, yes, these books will save you a lot of time and a headache because they'll show you how to structure. They'll essentially show you a lot of what Nick and I talked about this week, but they'll also show you like live, like we did. They'll show you live examples, but they'll also show you live examples from your favorite guys and how they do stuff.
So this is not necessarily comic writing, but like this is just like this has a lot of really good tips on general writing. I've had this book for a while. I mean, you can kind of tell it's a bit, it's a really good book. I mean, obviously it deals a lot with like screenwriting and whatnot, but like it just gives like really good like writing tips and whatnot. And I highly recommend this book. Holy crap! It's got a Borders tag on it. Like that's how old it is.
Wow. I remember the Borders years.
Oh, well, they've been dead for like 15 years, but yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that's how old I am. But so I think it's a good place to leave it, Nick, unless you have any other tips for the viewers.
Your first draft is going to suck. Deal with it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. I actually want to elaborate on that real quick before I leave.
Yeah, sure.
That is actually probably the most important thing you can know as a beginning writer. Your first draft always sucks, and if it doesn't, it sucks, But honestly, knowing that it sucks is just freeing because the first draft is just getting it on paper, okay? Getting it on the screen. It's just getting it done, getting it out there. And then once that's done, you can reiterate, rewrite. So just accept the fact your first draft is going to suck. And that's like literally, like there's no shame in that. There's like no shame, Every writer worth their salt is going to tell you this exact same thing. It's going to suck. Even their first draft sucks. Stephen King's draft first suck. I mean, his finished product sucks now, but that's
a lot of writers today, their writing looks like they just wrote one draft and sent it in.
Yeah, Bendis just like sits down on a typewriter for an hour. Like
Tom Taylor, whenever he writes anything in continuity.
I mean, look at what Alan Moore did. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the first draft.
Yeah.
Or if he just like hit the caps lock key, is like frick it,
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, that was cheap.
That's
shot,
okay.
But
I appreciate that tip. That actually would work really well. You have to have the right mindset.
Yes.
So on that note, we're gonna call this one to an end. I hope you guys. Hope this guys gave you some like tips if you guys have ever thought about writing a comic book. Now, by the way, one more thing in terms of actually getting the comic book in the hands of people. You could do Indiegogo. The reason why I'm going to use Indiegogo and Nick uses it is because what's good about it is that you can give people bonuses, like all these little items that we give. How Nick?
Well, that's like most crowdfunding platforms. The big thing about Indiegogo is they like Kickstarter. You have to meet your goal to get your money. If you don't meet like let's say your goal is $1,000. If you get $999, it's a failure. But with Indiegogo, they have flexible funding to where if your goal is $1,300 and you only get $1,200, you still get the $1,200.
So actually, that's really good. And by the way, if you guys have any ideas for like little bonuses that we could put in our campaigns, drop in the comments, and Nick and I will check that out. Nick, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure having you on the channel, even though you practically live here now. Yeah, and remember, guys, happy writing, and I will see you in the next episode. Stay heroic, everyone. Bye-bye.